Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Flat Out, and it is a Goodwood special, the Qatar Goodwood Festival, or as we all like to call it, really glorious Goodwood in all its glory. Plenty to talk about this week, all the big races and all the big chat, all the big bets as well. Thanks once again to Opulence Thoroughbreds for sponsoring our podcast. Very much appreciated, and please do remember to like and subscribe to the channel as well. Once again, Joey Laver and Jack Nicol alongside to talk about everything Goodwood. But first up, lads, let's have a quick reflection piece on both the King George Ascot and anything else you'd like to talk about. And also, Jack, a fine victory in the international stakes for you with Baradar.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one, Tom. There was a bit of unfinished business there in the Victoria Cup. They did the wrong thing coming over to the near side, but there was no mistake this time. Cheek pieces were on. It was a stinky old drift, but it didn't matter in the end. He won like a proper good thing. And it'll be hard to know where he goes from here, but I think that was his day in the sun. And yeah, really, really enjoyed that one. And yeah, you don't get many good ones like that. No, it was a good day.
Yeah, really good performance. And Joey, what did you make of the King George itself? Because obviously in the end, it was a cracking battle royale, if you like, between both Westover and Hookham. But some of the big players did disappoint.
Yeah, some of them did. I think when you get it, how often does that sort of thing happen though in these big races? You know, when you get a load of the top horses there, I think everyone does these horses to run to such a high level. Often, when you get so many in there, a few of them will run like what would win a pretty average race. Well, not an average race, but say a Group 2 or like a weaker Group 1. Like I think Emily Upjohn, for example, you know, if there were less horses in that race, she was running in one of the Group 1s early in the season, she would have won it running as she ran that day. But on that day, those two horses were the ones that brought their absolute A game. It's always going to happen that some of them are going to bomb out. How many times did it take Denman and Corto Star to actually get to the point where we had the battle between them neck and neck into the straight? You know, often they're horses and they can't speak to you, and so some of them just won't have their day all at the same time. It's very rare you get one of those races where everyone brings it to the party. But yes, from a personal perspective, your eye was drawn to Hookham the whole way, getting a fantastic ride, I thought, from Jim Crowley. And obviously a bit disappointed that Westover couldn't quite battle back, didn't get the best of trips. He was obviously wide the whole way. He's a horse that gets a bit keen. And I think Jack wants to talk about the relative merits of the rides. But yeah, I thought it was a fair result and a brilliant performance from a very, very good horse that's often underrated.
Yeah, that brings us on nicely, doesn't it, Jack, to your thoughts on the ride of the runner-up?
Well, I just want it was more in comparison to the ride that Jim Crowley gave Hookham. I thought it was a beautiful ride, but I think, as Joey said, that I echo what he says in that I was kind of always drawn to Hookham, and he travelled supremely well. And it was for Westover, he was just a bit wide, and he came like 5 wide into the straight, and I just thought he probably wasted a bit of room, and I think he could have had a bit more of an efficient ride, certainly compared to Hookham, who was ridden a bit more chillier by Jim, and I thought that might have been the difference on the day. Given different rides, I wouldn't be surprised if they could reverse that form maybe next time out. But it's a stark contrast from where Westover ran. He was sent off favourite for it last year, wasn't he? And he completely bombed out. So I'd say Connections would be delighted. You would have thought that they would go for the Arc on the back of that. Doesn't seem like that might not be the case. I'm sure Hookham, they are going to go for that. So it'll be interesting to see if they do meet up again. But no, I wouldn't put much between them. It was a big goal for me to see those two come to the fore, obviously having tipped up Desert Crown, and then he comes out at the 11th hour. Those were the right horses for me in the end. King of Steel ran a great race as well in third. I don't think there was any real excuses. He just didn't stay. And as we know with Augustin, he just didn't give his run, which is a shame. And I'm sure there'll be better days ahead for Emily Upjohn as well. But I thought it was a great spectacle. I really enjoyed the race. I was watching it in the office with Joey. He was quiet as a mouse watching the race. And if Westover had gone a neck up, I'm sure he would have erupted. But sadly, it just wasn't to be, was it, Joey? But no, I really enjoyed the race. And it was another great renewal of the King George, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I would say there was no hard feelings for me personally with Rob Hornby. I feel that that's the way you have to ride the horse. I mean, he wasn't in the best position early. From then, I think you do have to be really aggressive with him. Like, I think he really, really stays. And the thing is, I think he loses a bit of interest if he doesn't, if you drop him out and stuff like that, or he gets a bit keen. I think being nice and aggressive with him, putting him in the race early and really using his stamina is what you need. But obviously the trip he got round the outside wasn't ideal, but I think that was just where he was placed early in the race. There wasn't much that could be done about that. And then he just needed to get him going, like he didn't do at Epsom when everyone was giving him all sorts of stick, saying he went too late. So yeah, I thought it was a fine ride personally.
Excellent stuff. Very much looking forward to seeing the return of Desert Crown, actually, Jack, just on your point there. And likely to come in the Jobment International, hopefully at least. And that could be one of the races of the season as well. So plenty to look forward to in coming weeks. Right, this week is all about the Qatar Goodwood Festival. 5 days of fabulous racing at glorious Goodwood. We're going to touch on the Group 1s a little bit later on. First up, though, it's time for our best bets. And Jack, let's kick off with you. 5 days of fantastic racing, some really competitive handicaps, which I know that you love. What's your best bet going to be?
Well, strictly speaking, Tom, I mentioned Kinross last week, put him up. It wasn't too long that 7-2, 3-1 was around, but he was sold enough around 5-2 for a couple of days, and I hope that viewers did get on. He's a general 6-4 shot, and in terms of my confidence this week, he would be by far the best chance. He's just got rock solid claims. It's really hard to pick any kind of holes in his form. As I mentioned last week, he won the race in 21. He was a little unlucky not to back up again and could have been going for the hat trick. I feel a bit iffy putting him up as a best bet at 6-4. So I will actually put one up on Wednesday, the first race, and that's Amleto. He's a full brother at Sea of Class. It's his handicap debut here, and I think he could be let in lightly off 89. He was a bit of a playboy. I read he was described by William Haggis last year. His mind wasn't on the job. Sea of Class, she was actually there during my time at Somerville Lodge. I left just before she made her debut, and she was like a backwards type of two, wouldn't even get close to seeing the track. So the fact Amleto did it would have done the world good. Gilded during the interim. That's certainly flicked a switch in him, and he won like a really impressive animal. He could be anything, and I think he's stakes class. And off a mark of 89, I think he could, as I say, let in quite lightly off this. And I'm really looking forward to him in the opening contest on Wednesday. He's been a general 6-1, 7-1 shot. Where at the time of recording, it's 10 o'clock here on Monday morning, so the market's going to have a bit of a rejig, and I suspect he's going to be around 3-1, 4-1 on the back of that. Hopefully he doesn't get a bad draw, but I'm really looking forward to him, and he'd be a confident win selection.
Lovely stuff. I'm glad we've returned to the status quo, back to reality, with Jack tipping up a William Haggis horse. It's always nice to see that we're back to normality. Yeah. I quite fancy him as well, actually, Jack, to be fair. I think he's got a really good chance in that, very unexposed, as you say. My best bet, I'm going to go to the first day, actually, and to the final race, the fillies handicap over 6 furlongs. Kittai is my best bet of the week. I think she's pretty much a certainty, I have to say. The way that she won last time out of Pontefract over 6 furlongs last time. Like, I know
you can't say that, Tom.
Hear me out. The way that she won last time out of Pontefract over 6 furlongs in what was a pretty decent race, to be fair, quite competitive. I mean, she just sluiced through the race, travelled really sweetly and put it to bed in fantastic style. That was dropping back from 7 furlongs. She previously won at Carlisle over 7, but she's got bags of pace, and 6 furlongs I think is probably going to end up being her best trip. Now, this race on the opening day is not a very good one in terms of kind of handicaps at glorious Goodwood. It wouldn't be the most competitive. Plenty in this are looking to rediscover some kind of form, and she is really the only one, apart from, you could argue, funny story for Rob Hornby and Ruth Beckett, who is progressive and at the moment is going the right way and is rising up the handicap. Yes, she's got to defy a £7 rise for that win at Pontefract last time out, but I think she's well capable of that. We know what kind of a record Charlie Johnston and Mark Johnston have at that Goodwood meeting in handicaps particularly. And I think, considering she has got that upward curve, the trajectory she's coming in on is so steep at the moment. I think she's absolutely the one to beat. And I can't see anything unless something bounces right back to form in a major way of getting near her, really, because she looks to me like a bit of a kind of fly in the ointment and could be potentially a listed Pass and Filly in time. So I think this Class 3 0 to 95 should very much play into her hands. She's around about the 5-2 shot. She is favourite, but I can see her being a lot shorter than that come the actual race. Sort of 2-1, maybe even 7-4, something like that. I'd be very confident about her chance. Arguably, I would say, boys, this is the most confident I've been about a horse on this podcast so far.
I would advise the listeners to get on now, because that tip was given to the Hong Kong Jockey Club in our World Pool preview yesterday, wasn't it, Mr. Tom Ball? And I know they wait with bated breath for the Tom Ball selections ahead of these big festivals. So I come the off, I can see Keyside going off very, very short indeed. So yeah, get on fixed odds now, viewers.
Yeah, exactly right, Joey. The Hong Kong people always follow me.
I'd hope as well, Tom, this would be your most confident selection if she is a certainty, as you said. As viewers of Flat, we definitely want to promote responsible gambling.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Okay, I'll amend certainty to I think she's very likely to win, but of course she might not win. We'll go with that.
She might not win. Yeah.
I do like her chances, I must say.
Yeah, lovely stuff. That's myself and Jack done. Now, Joey, we're going to move on to the Group 1s now, or in a moment or two, but I know that your best fancy comes in one of those Group 1s.
Yes, and I think obviously to start in chronological order makes sense. So we'll take the Goodwood Cup tomorrow, Tuesday, first. I think this race last year was probably one of the strongest staying races anywhere last year. You know, obviously with Kyprios, with Trushan, Stradivarius running very, very big numbers, and Coltrane, you know, adding a very solid look to the form. So it was a very, very good race last year. We obviously have Coltrane appearing again, and he's likely to run very well again, but be beatable again, probably. That would be my taking in Coltrane. He's just going to run a very, very solid level. Courage Mon Ami obviously beat him by a short distance at Ascot last time, but I think he's got a hell of a lot of potential to improve past this, given how few runs he's had. He does strike me as the most likely winner. Of the rest, though, just to be quick, I think that they are more or less, you know, beatable by something in there. I was looking for something to take them on. Emily Dickinson would be the obvious one. I just can't get out of my head her kind of just really plodding performance at Goodwood the last time she came here. So I just couldn't quite get convinced to back her at 5-1. And the one that really stood out to me was Lone Eagle, because Lone Eagle for me, if you go back to Ascot in the Gold Cup, swinging in for a minute, I thought he might be winning. You know, he was going really well 2 out. He took it up. The blinkers have made a massive difference for him. Switching to Rafe Beckett's stable made a massive difference after he lost his way as a 4-year-old. He's now as a 5-year-old. And I was just really, really taken with that performance. Now, obviously, it wasn't given a particularly high rating because of how he fell away to basically finish in the final quarter of the field. But literally, if you stop at 2 out, he's going really, really well. Back down to 2 miles, which he's never run over before. I think this might just be the perfect trip for him. He ran really well behind Hamish in the Ormond Stakes, you know, a proper soft ground animal on soft ground. I think the soft ground would be fine for him earlier in the year. And I think he was I think a horse like Hamish, who can drop down to 1.5 miles, went past him with a bit more speed than he has. I think nowadays he's a bit more of a plodder at 2 miles, might just be the perfect thing. And he's got really classy back form, being, you know, from behind Hurricane Lane in the Irish Derby. With the improvement of the blinkers, I think he can run a really, really solid race in this, and he'll be there punching at the end over what will probably be his best trip. He's run really well at Goodwood before in the Cocktail, beat your beer back as a 3-year-old. So he's a horse I really like. I've always liked him, and the way I'm going to play this personally is the first firm up without Courage Mon Ami. Put him in William Hill at 10-1. I don't think that'll be around forever. That'll be a win-only price. When they go up each way, it'll probably be around maybe 7-8-1, which I think is a really, really decent bet. Sorry, that's without Coltrane and Courage Mon Ami. 10 is the 10-1. You can get up to 16-1 currently just without Courage Mon Ami. I'm going to be playing both of those with half a point win only on those. I think he's set to run really well. I expect those to probably shorten just a touch, maybe down to about 12s. And then maybe 8, 9, something like that when it's widely available. I think that's slightly too big personally. And so I'll be playing, I think we'll settle around 14s and maybe say 8s. We what I'm expecting. So I'll play it like that. And I might have just a win-only stab at him as well at a bigger price in the exchange. That's my case for Lone Eagle. Sorry for going on so long. I really do quite fancy him.
No, I really like that angle, Joe. I think that's really interesting. It brings us on nicely to our Group 1 race chat, kicking off with the Goodwood Cup. Jack, what do you think about the race? We've got a really interesting rematch, haven't we, between Courage Mon Ami and Coltrane, amongst others, like Lone Eagle.
We do, yes, and Emily Dickinson as well from the Gold Cup in fourth, and she's come and won since. And I'd probably give her more of a shout than maybe Joey would. I think what's really important to this filly is an ease underfoot, and I would certainly say that would help Coltrane as well. This is probably his quickest service, and it would actually be a question mark for Courage Mon Ami. He's ran twice on turf. It's been good for him both times. So how he's going to handle testing or softer conditions, should I say? I certainly think that Coltrane could reverse that form with that in mind. With a chillier ride as well, Coltrane, he was a bit of a sitting duck for me for Courage Mon Ami. It was a proper ride from Frankie just to kind of reel him in close home. And yeah, I could see maybe Coltrane reversing that form. I would certainly give Emily Dickinson on a softer surface up to 2 miles. 1 mile 6 is probably a tad sharp for her. I've never really warmed to Elder Eldarov. In terms of, as I've just gone through there, I'm kind of going around in circles. I don't really have a standout selection, but I think at the prices, if pressed, I'd probably go Emily Dickinson. I think she's a solid enough each way. She's a fairly consistent filly, isn't she? And I think depending on how much rain we do get, it's probably one I might play on the day, but I'm probably not going to have a bet. But if pressed, I would say her, granted a soft in the description anyway.
I couldn't find much soft ground in Courage Mon Ami's pedigree either. I do think it's a slight concern.
Yeah, I would echo the sentiments actually, Joe. I think it probably is a slight concern. That said, I think until he's had a go at it, we can't discount him. And I think I wouldn't necessarily have a strong opinion on this race. It's going to be one to watch for me and looking forward to it. I love this race. I love all the staying races when you've got some decent prospects in there. I mean, apart from Stradivarius, sort of before last year, it was a kind of quiet time, wasn't it, really, for the staying division? But last year it picked up a bit with Kyprios and Coltrane and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully with Courage Mon Ami and Gregory as well, who won't be running, of course, we got a nice staying division to look forward to. Cool. Let's move on then to Wednesday's Group 1, which is the Sussex Stakes, and always a cracking race to watch, I think. This year, we've got a really hot favourite in the shape of Paddington. You can absolutely understand why, particularly as Sir Michael Stowe isn't running Nostrum. So likely the biggest danger is going to be in Spiral. Joey, come to you on the Sussex Stakes first. Is it a case of push-button stuff for Paddington, or do you think it might be a little bit harder than that?
I wouldn't say it'd be. I mean, it's a fairly. I'd keep it very short. I think it's obviously fairly unappealing betting race. Kudos to Jack for his Aldari shout. I mean, when I was looking at the decks coming through, and with 15 minutes to go, no Paddington, or it was something like that. I was thinking, Jesus Christ, he's onto a right one here. But yeah, unfortunately, Paddington's been declared. I think he looks like the outstanding 3-year-old this year, doesn't he? And I think he'll take all the beating in this. It will suit him down to the ground. In Spiral's just not a filly you can really trust. She ran really well at Ascot, but she's a bit in and out now. And for me, it's a very much a watch race and see him do something impressive, which is a shame because I really like the Sussex Stakes, one of my favourite Group 1s of the year. It can throw up a right race some years, and this year it's just a bit of a disappointment, I think.
I would agree with that, but Jack, you must be pretty pleased with Aldari being declared in a much shorter price now.
Oh, absolutely, Tom. For context to viewers who don't follow me on Twitter, but yeah, put them up at a few days ago there at prices ranging at 40 to 66s, and then all of a sudden after the Nostrum news yesterday, who's going to go for the Thoroughbred Stakes, he was in at 10 to 1. Just looking here at decks with 6 in, no Modern Games who I thought that might be the case as well. He obviously needs really quick ground, and without Nostrum, Kinross. Yeah, I've got 3 places now. I'm very much looking forward to when he comes fourth, and yeah, another value loser for me. But no, in terms of the race, in Spiral, I remember being at Newmarket last year, and she was wildly disappointing after Royal Ascot. And she's just a filly I think is beatable. She's not top class, is she? And in all intents and purposes, yeah, it does just look like a penalty kick for Paddington unless it came up really soft. And I may give Aldari a squeak, but for all, he has been crabbed, myself included, for his head carriage. He's just the most wonderful game and genuine horse, isn't he? He's been on the go. He's went every dance so far, and I suspect this might be the last time we'll see over a mile on the back of the King George. And surely he goes now for the Juddmonte or the Irish Champion Stakes. They're going to want him to win those stallion making races. There's obviously doubts about now, lads. who would be O'Brien's arc horse as well. Could he go up to a mile and a half pattern? Probably not, but I just suspect that he's going to be their leading light now after a few disappointments with Auguste Rodin. I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are in terms of O'Brien's leading lights for the rest of the season as well. But in terms of this race, probably Paddington just wins, and hopefully Paddington and Aldari in the first three.
Yeah, I think Paddington is very much the O'Brien leading light at the moment, you have to say. And he's done nothing wrong, keeps progressing. We don't really know how good he is, do we? And we don't really know how far he could stay and what kind of trip is his best. He's proved himself over a mile 2. As you say, Jack, probably unlikely to step up to a mile 4, but we just don't know. Quite possibly he could get it. For me as well, he'd be the one to beat. I think it's very much just a watching race and see how he does. Go on, Joey.
They've got to have a think, haven't they, about Auguste Rodin? I mean, because they think he's probably the most important horse they've ever had from a breeding perspective going forward. You can't pull up stumps now. I mean, every time he runs at the moment, you get people saying, "Oh, he'll pick up a small niggle and be retired next Wednesday, won't he?" And you're thinking, I don't think they can really afford to be thinking like that with this horse at the moment. Like they don't want to be ending on that. They've got to find a way. And the biggest thing that seems to have come out of it is maybe he just needs a big break between his races, doesn't he? A bit more time to recover from these things. I think maybe that would be the way they might go, probably to try and win a big one. But he doesn't look to me. He wouldn't be one I'd be thinking about dropping down to 10 furlongs. Certainly not backing up fairly soon to the Juddmonte in what is it, about 3.5, 4 weeks time, maybe 4 weeks time from now. I think he's probably going to be tuned up later for a mile and a half in the Arc. Probably I'd give him a big break and aim him at that and try and go out on a high, and then potentially you could even keep him going internationally, couldn't you, afterwards, and get quicker ground, and that could easily be their option too, couldn't it? Go for quicker ground in America or out in Japan or something like that. So I mean, Japan would be an obvious one, wouldn't it? But I think I just don't think he's one that's going to be imminently retired. It just doesn't. I don't think they can retire him on the back of just 2 derbies now. As amazing a feat as that is.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point, to be fair, Joe. Unlike Paddington, of course, he takes his racing really well, and you could probably run him every week, and he produces a nice performance. He seems to be very reliable and very resolute, quite durable
Giants
as well.
Causeway vibes. Giants Causeway
big
vibes,
time.
isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. A hardy horse if ever there was one. Cool. That's the Sussex Stakes. Let's move on to the final Group 1 of the week. That's the Nassau for the fillies and mares. And Jack, will come to you first again. I'm looking forward to seeing Blue Rose Sen.
Well, I wouldn't be as much as you, Tom. I think there's serious doubts over this filly, I must admit. I know you do really like her, but
well, no, I don't necessarily think she's going to win, but I'm just quite looking forward to seeing her in action, actually.
Of course, yeah. I just think that price is really prohibitive in terms of taking on the elders. Nashwa obviously won this race last year. Her form's quite closely matched with Al Husson. There's a big price disparity, but whether you can really trust that Newcastle form, I'm not sure. Al Husson's a really progressive filly. Nashwa is a class act though at the same time, and she probably will confirm her edge here. Warm Heart as well. We know it was a funny decision to probably run her the last day in Ireland, but she's another class act, won at Royal Ascot, and Running Lions, another with question marks. Really disappointed in France, but I think the quote they gave there, it was a really warm day and she just didn't give her running for whatever reason. I can absolutely buy into that because I think that's what happened to Wise Eagle at Royal Ascot. It was 30 degrees plus, and he was lathered in sweat before the race. And yeah, fair enough. I could maybe understand that. And she looked a class act in when winning at Newmarket back a few months ago. So that would be an interesting one for me at around 14-1. Certainly at 11-10, I wouldn't be going close to this French filly. In terms of a bet, though, I don't really have one for you. As I say, I think probably the double figure odds around Warm Heart and Run a Line would be where I'd be kind of looking if pressed. But at the moment, nothing for me. It's a race I love, though. The Fugue, my all-time favourite horse, won this race way back when. And yeah, it's a race I always enjoy watching.
Yeah, I always enjoy watching it as well. But I think particularly this year with Blue Rose Sen being a really intriguing runner from the continent. As I said, I don't think necessarily she's going to win. I thought the performance from Nashwa last time out at Newmarket, where she clocked a really quick furlong, I think it was 3 furlongs or 2 furlongs from home. That that performance really marked her out as a very smart filly and one of the smartest around. I think stepping up to mile 2, obviously she's won over that in the past, is fine, and I think she'll be very hard to beat here. It's a really good race. I think she'll reverse that form without Houston from Newcastle. I think she should have won that race. She didn't look entirely happy on the track, in my opinion, that day. Was hanging a little bit towards the far side and couldn't really be kept straight. Houston got that run on the near side, which is always vital at Newcastle, and kind of caught her napping, really. It remains to be seen how good Blue Rose Sen is. I mean, this is her real acid test, isn't it? Having won some obviously some of the biggest prizes for 3-year-olds in France, including the Prix Diane last time out. Now taking on older horses, this is going to be her toughest test, but she could well be up to it. That said, Nashwa's got that proven form, and I'd be with her, I think, over Blue Rose Sen. And Joey, what do you think about the race?
Yeah, well, for me, I'll keep this nice and brief. I think it's a fairly simple one, and that's I'll be backing Nashwa. I'm clear up. I think the stuff that's gone on so far this year, she just seemed a classic one for just not coming to herself with the cold spring. Gosden went on about it a lot. You know, there's a lot of fillies that just been a bit slow to get going this year, and she was especially one. So I just chuck out some of those runs where everyone thought she should be retired at the start of this year. She's an absolute unit of a thing, this horse. She's a monster. And if you look at Blue Rose Sen as a type, she looks a little bit quite a petite type. You know, if she's going to need that weight for age, she's going to need every pound of it, I think, to be able to repel Nashwa. This performance last year was fantastic. I think this trip will suits her perfectly. It's like, you know, it's not really a stamina test at 10 furlongs, which I think she wants. I think she'll win this and go on to run in the QE2, and I think she'll have every chance of winning that too. I think she's a serious horse, Nashwa, on her day. She's an absolute machine, and I wouldn't want to be backing the French filly. Of the others, yeah, I mean, there's some decent ones in there. I wouldn't, with a bit of cut in the ground, I wouldn't put anybody off above the curve at a decent price if she turns up. I think she's wants a bit of dig over 10 furlongs, and she's going to get it in a decent Group 1. But I'd say to keep this simple, Nashwa. I think Nashwa just wins this race for me at those prices. Anyway, I'd have a favourite. I'd have a strong favourite as well.
Joe, I know that the Golden Mile has been your mind for quite some time, so we'll start with you on this, shall we?
Yes, it's one of my favourite races of the year, to be honest, along with the Working. I just love these big handicaps, but we can really narrow it down with the stats with this one. 18 of the last 20 winners of this race were all drawn in single figures. If you want to really narrow that down even further, 15 of those 20 winners were drawn in stall 5 or lower. So it's a race you can't really touch from anti-post perspective. But yeah, it's for whatever reason. Well, we know the way that the track works. You just got to get a good track position, and you get that by having a low draw. And yeah, I'm going to be waiting very keenly for the draw on Wednesday morning. And at the moment, Revich, who was third in the race last year, he's a pound higher this year. He probably produced a career best at Chester a couple months ago. So he's in top form. I'm hoping that he's going to get a low draw, but I mean, I can't back him at the moment at 16s. Fortunately, you're going to probably sacrifice a few points if he does get a single figure draw. But as I say, it's absolutely imperative that you get a low draw. And as I say, that's kind of the angle that you've got to look. Yeah, I'll probably do on the day a few multiples. Trick season forecasts on the single figure numbers, but it's just a race that I always find quite fun, and I had a bit of success in it. As I say, at the moment, Revich would be top of the shortlist anyway.
And top of my shortlist would probably be a wow again, like if he turns up, on very similar to arguments I've made for these handicaps, you know, that we've gone through in recent weeks, that you just got to wait for your turn. And if he got a low draw, it's just the sort of race with cut underfoot. It's just the sort of race I could see him getting away in front and just not coming back in. I think he's going to do that one time this year, and in one of these races over 7 or a mile, where he'll just get to the front with cut underfoot, get away on a flat or fast 7 or a mile, and he just won't come back. And nothing will be able to peg him back. So if he got a low draw, I'd be very interested. But just like Jack, you can't touch it really from a betting perspective until you know that you've got a nice single figure draw.
Yeah, definitely. I would be looking to wait for the draw as well. One thing I would say is that the performance of Blue for You last time at York was very impressive. He won that so easily. It was quite a competitive handicap, and a £3 penalty could leave him in very lightly for that. But as you say, we should wait for the draw, because if he's drawn in the car park, then his chance is immediately hindered. And the Stewards Cup is Saturday's big sprint handicap. Always one of my favourite races, a proper cavalry charge to every year. And, well, we might as well finish by starting with Jack and see what you make of the race, mate, because it's always a cracking contest, isn't it?
Well, the only reason why for context for the viewers, I put this on the running order just because I wanted to have a bit of indulgence, and I think Joey will find this quite funny. But I kind of lost the head in this race last year. Other than the Fugue, Tabdeed is one of my all-time favourite horses, and yeah, just watching the replay back here, he doesn't get a clear run and just couldn't quite reel in Comanche Falls. He probably has every chance to go past here, and he just wouldn't go past. And Joey and I were both working in the office that day. Couldn't believe it, to be honest. Holly Doyle is sometimes the bane of my life. Every time I kind of wade in with Holly, it doesn't kind of pan out. But no, she just didn't get the split at the right time here, and he's probably not going to run this year, Tabby, because he probably does need it quicker. But I just wanted to kind of put this in as a bit of humour for Joey, really, because he knows that kind of had a bit of a wobble in the office, didn't I, Joey?
Oh yeah, it took him a good 24 hours to calm down from this one. Holly was getting it from all angles, bless her.
33 to 1.
We got it.
I think
we got it. We got the whole race surgically deconstructed by our man here for about 27 times in the next 24 hours. He'd come in on the hour to give us another update on what she could have done differently. Yeah, it was quite entertaining, but I felt sorry for him because it was a great shout. It was a great shout, and yeah, there you go. Bad luck.
Painful beat.
Not again a bet until I know more, but I love my older horses, and Summergand is one I just noticed running a promising race again, as he does at this time of year. Just starts to spark up again. You know, the old Summergand starts running into fourth. I thought it was a really promising run. He'll be wrong at the weights in this, but off a mark of 100, I think he's it's just more about the time of year and when he fancies turning up, and he's been running and just getting better and better and better, and it might just be another day for the Summergand. He'd be on my list, my short list each way. Nice.
I'm going to give another chance to Mitt Bahi over 6 furlongs, because I put him up last time in the Hackwood, but nothing went right.
Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again. But there's definitely a big one in him over 6. Nothing went right on his first try with that trip last time in the Hackwood. Nothing went right. He missed the break, and then he was caught wide on the outside on the wing, and then had to make his challenge pretty much on his own. And actually, I thought he ran quite well. He was only beaten 4 lengths at the line. I know he came 8th of 10, but he wasn't beaten that far, and he'd done all his racing pretty much before they got inside the final furlong and a half. So you can very much understand why he was tired in the closing stages. He's the type of horse that travels very strongly, so you need a big field, which is what he'll get. And I want a late charge over the 6 furlong trip, and hopefully he can produce that. Again, you want to know more about his draw and that kind of thing, but I do think he's got a one in him over 6 furlongs. Hopefully, it'll be this week. Cool. Right. I think that brings us on to any other business for the rest of the week. Now, Jack, I know that past history suggests you've got plenty up your sleeve for the rest of the week. But should we try?
Should we go make a cup of tea? Should we, Tom? Should we go make a cup of tea and come back?
No, I promise I'm going to be a bit more streamlined here, lads, and not quite as in depth. But yeah, I've got 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. No, we'll get straight into it. And starting in the handicap on Wednesday, the 4:45, the Phillies handicap, La Isla Mujeres. I think that's how you say it. It's actually an island off Cancun. I went there in 2019. It's an absolute dump. But the equine namesake, she's actually quite a smart filly, I must admit. I was really.
Were there a lot of women there though, Jack?
No, it was like it was just
that is what it means, isn't it? It's the Isle of Women. Yeah.
No, I trust me. It's you just stay in Cancun. You don't want to waste a day going over there. It's just a building site.
I have actually been there too. So.
Oh, have you? Well,
I can vouch. I can vouch for that. That makes us.
Yeah.
That makes us sound like really kind of really, I don't know, degenerates, really, doesn't it? We've both been to
does, yeah.
Cancun. On that note, I think it's nice that we're all dressed for very, very different occasions here.
We are, yeah.
There's no continuity whatsoever. Bully looks like he's just leaving a wedding at like 9:30.
I can guarantee you these are just work clothes, though. I can guarantee you that. I have been to a few weddings recently, but thankfully not today.
Cool.
Yeah, coming back to this filly, I'm not going to say her name again. I think we can get the gist of it. But she destroyed some useful enough fillies, 80, 81 rated fillies, and she's just been improving with each start. She went up £11 for that, and fair enough, she probably did get the run of the race, but it was the way she really quick and clear and put distance between the field. Beckett's won this race in 2020 and 2022. It's a race he does target, and I just think this filly, after that, he's probably thought, this is definitely the race for her. We're going to get, she was declared just before, so we're going to get markets later today. It's probably one I might put up on Twitter just to confirm the price, but I'm hoping she could. Well, it's going to be so competitive, isn't it? It's hard to kind of forecast the price at the moment. Anything above 6 to 1, I'd be going each way. But I wouldn't mind going win only either. Moving on to Thursday, and this is a bit of a swinger, and that's in the opening race on Thursday as well, the 10 furlong handicap, and that's Benaker. Put him up for the Britannia at Royal Ascot. He didn't run any kind of race, and with hindsight, I've actually been waiting for him to step up and trip. You look at his pedigree; it's a wonderful pedigree, but it's really stamina laden. And I just had in my mind he's won at Epsom last year. He's won at Goodwood. These kind of turning tracks suit him. The Johnston angle again. They've probably had this in mind for a while, possibly saving him for this meeting. He's a general 33 to 1. James Doyle's jocked up, and I just think he could be a sneaky one at a price, and with these Johnson horses that can leave a bad run behind in an instant. So I'm having a small each way go at him. And just in terms of a couple later in the week, obviously there's no markets yet. On Friday, the opening race, Typewriter in that 2 mile 4 race. She came there to win her race behind Dawn Rising at Ascot. She just flattened out at about the furlong pole. Back in a handicap here. She's caught the eye twice already before Ascot at York this season. And I just think she's primed to run a really good race. And I think in a handicap here, she could be an interesting one. I think she'll be a bit of a price as well, hopefully double figures. And then in terms of another best bet, I suspect that Free Wind might go off really short for the Lily Langtree if she gets declared. Could well be odds on, but I think if you're getting any odds against about her, the regard I hold this filly is I actually think she could go really well in an arc, to be honest. I think she's like 66 to 1. I'm kind of hovering over the button at the moment for that. I want to see if she does run because she's quite a fragile filly, but I didn't think with hindsight, I don't think she actually run that bad at Royal Ascot on really quick round. She's finished 3 lengths behind Pile Driver. He's run a solid enough race in the King George, hasn't he? But this filly's a completely different proposition with ease underfoot. And I wouldn't forget about her for the arc, but certainly we're going to get easier conditions this week. She's already won over the trip. And the hidden class drop going back against her own sex as well. I think she'd be very hard to beat, and I'm looking forward to her. And Nostrum as well. This isn't a bet, but I'm just really looking forward to him, and I'm really pleased. I mentioned on an episode there, I think it was last week or the week before, how I'm really glad they're going to go for the patient approach, and they can go for the Baid route now and go for the French Group 1, and then the obvious target at the end of the season, probably no Paddington there. It'd be a great spot for him to try and win the QE too. I think he's a proper horse, he is.
Great stuff, Jack. Yeah, really comprehensive analysis there of your fancies for the week. And let's get Joey, shall we?
I won't take again. Jack's very thorough. Maybe we should break these up sometimes, and keep going round the circle. But I don't know if viewers will remember that I put up Hartem Newmarket, and I think he's one of my stronger fancies for the week going tomorrow. I think he's just got a load of form in the book compared to these that don't, and he was put in at second favourite. Whereas I think that's kind of correcting itself now in the Vintage Stakes. It's a fairly weak race, really. I think there's nothing particularly standout, and I think a kind of a fast 7 furlongs is exactly what he wants. He's ran brilliant behind City of Troy, and I thought around 3-1 would be as low as I'd go, though. I mean, he was about 9-2 when I was doing prep for this, and I thought, Jesus, that's a muggy each way bet if ever I saw one, because he's just going to probably run a really solid race, and if there's nothing really, really good in here, he'll win. I thought he ran really well at Epsom on a downhill track as well. I think the track would be great for him. It's just that he fell out of the stalls that day. He was the moral winner. So yeah, he's one I really like. Stormy Seas, another one tomorrow. I think the stable won this last year. Sir Michael Stout has given her plenty of time after running on. I think she ran really well in her novice that she won on fast ground, and she ran to practically the same level again on fast ground. And I just think being a half to Bay Bridge, she's going to really enjoy a bit of cut underfoot, and this will be perfect. She's also got the 2 stall, which I think is over a mile. It's a big field. It's good. It could be a messy race. I think she's got a confirmed front runner on her inside, a really free goer, and that will break well and drag her into a prominent position as well. So she's likely to get a good spot on the rail. And I think at 6-1, 5-1, 6-1, whatever you can get between those, she's a really solid each way shout in this with a good few extra places. I think you have a really solid run for your money with her. Looks a really talented filly to me. Of the others, yeah, I've already mentioned a while. Summergand, Get Ahead. I'm a bit worried about the ground. I think we might be just settling over the 2 times I put her up half point each way. We might be settling just a 1 point each way loser there, unfortunately, just because of the fact the ground hasn't come up right. Who knows? It might dry out later in the week and she might run, but I wouldn't be putting her up again, obviously, with all the ground concerns. The other one I'm not really interested in that Lily Langtree. I was rather interested in Heartache Tonight. I think she's a filly with a fair amount of potential as a 3-year-old, with a bit of cut underfoot and over those staying trips. Wonderful family, as we know. Wonderful Tonight, really talented staying family with a bit of cut underfoot, and so I could see her going well if the likes of Free Wind went for later targets abroad, that sort of thing, to give her a bit more time to recover from Ascot. So she'd be one I'll be keeping an eye out for. But yes, Stormy Sea and Heartem would be my 2 strong bets behind Nashwa and without the favourite Shout and Win Only Shout on Lone Eagle in the Group 1 tomorrow.
Excellent, Joey. Looking forward to all those running, I have to say. And looking forward to my fancies running as well, which I'm going to say now. Obviously, talked about Kitai already. I've got a couple. I mean, Kitai's favourite. I've got a couple really quite big prices, actually. Marbarn is...
But won't be beaten. I hope.
Well, hopefully not.
Continue in the form. I want absolute certainty from Bully coming in.
I'm not quite as confident on some of these, but still, I hold strong fancies about a couple of them, and one of those is Marbarn, who won the Vintage Stakes last year for Charlie Fellows. And now a lot of people probably looking at his form thinking, oh, he's got no chance, he hasn't won since then. What's the case to be made? But there is one. There is certainly one to be made. 2 starts ago at Salisbury, he ran enlisted company over 6 furlongs and was beaten ahead by Run to Freedom. That form has been franked, second in the July Cup. He beat Cardem, who was in 3rd, who was obviously won a Group 1 at Royal Ascot. Diligent Harry back in 4th, who has run well since, and Sondream was in 5th. That was a strong race for the grade, one of the strongest listed contests run this year so far. Marbarn was beaten ahead in 2nd, running on at the finish. 6 furlongs isn't really his trip, so that was a run very much above himself. 7 furlongs is exactly what he wants. He won the Vintage over the trip last year. He comes to the Lennox, gets that 7 furlongs that he absolutely thrives on. And back at Goodwood, I can see him running well above his price here. Jamie Spencer taking the ride will come fast and late, just as he did last year. And hopefully he can pick up the piece. He's a big price. He's around about 16, 20-1. So Marbarn was a very interesting runner for me in the Lennox Stakes. I also like International Angel, another quite big price. On Wednesday, that's in the Oak Tree Stakes, Group 3. Now, she was beaten ahead in this race last year. She ran absolutely mighty, storming contest in that, and looked the winner pretty much all the way up the running, but was just collared very late. She's run some very good races since then. A couple of performances in Meydan that were particularly notable, including behind Alsu Hale. That was in a conditions race, but only beaten 5 lengths in 3rd. Then she came to Ascot in June. I think probably needed to run a bit in the Duke of Cambridge Stakes, possibly acclimatising back to England. Didn't really run much of a race. But last time at Chelmsford, I thought she ran a much better contest. Yes, she was 5th of 7, but she's only beaten just over 3 lengths at the line. And the winner that day, White Moonlight, got first run, and International Angel was never best positioned. But I thought it was an encouraging performance because I think she'll have been tuned up absolutely for this day and for this race, considering the contest and the potency with which she ran in last year's renewal. I think she's absolutely guaranteed to be there or thereabouts. I think she'll be running a big race, definitely her biggest race since last year. So fingers crossed Markigiani can get her in a good position. I think she's got a really good chance. Again, she's around about 16-20 to 1 for Angel for Oaktree Stakes. Not a horse I'm going to tip up. Do make sure you watch out for Van Dijk if he runs in the Richmond this week. He was super impressive at Nottingham and on debut. That was only a couple of weeks ago. And boy, did he flash home. He completely fluffed the start, but won in really good style. So I keep an eye out for him. Cool. I think that pretty much wraps us up, lads, for a fine 5 days of action in Prague. Cannot wait. One of my favourite week of the year. I do hope that they manage to avoid the rain, because there's nothing worse at Goodwood than that sea fret coming in with the rain and you can't see a single thing that's happening on the track.
Let the rain come, Tom. Let the rain come for Aldari is what I say.
Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of visuals, though, all the horses come down the near side, all the centre of the track.
Yeah, that's
beautiful. Ruins the whole occasion.
That'd be a beautiful sight to see Aldari coming clear.
Right.
Well, you won't see it. You won't see it, will you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
You won't even get that joy.
Exactly.
I don't know. Do you prefer, when you're out and about, do you prefer watching the race on your phone with the bad signal, or do you prefer just checking the result after it's done? Because that's what it'd be like, wouldn't it? I always get a massive, it's always a bit of a nice thing, but an anti-climax when you just don't get to watch it. You just see win come through on a Betfair exchange or something. You're a bit like, oh, great.
No, I have to watch it. It's the most infuriating thing to try and do it on a train, isn't it? You're always getting to the half furlong pull, and that's when it cuts out.
Every time.
I saw the whole preamble of Soul Sister in the Musadora, and as soon as the race went, we drove into a black spot, and I just got your message come through, and I was like, oh, great, but I'd have loved to have watched that.
Yeah, it's not quite the same, is it?
Yeah, exactly, and that'll be you. Well, hopefully for you, Jack, that'll be you at the weekend. With the mist.
The year made up if he can go and win for sure.
You just see that chestnut in those Shadwell colours come out of the horrible, gloomy Goodwood air, and that'd be fantastic for you, wouldn't it? That'd be fantastic. Cross your fingers. That's a great shout. That was a really good shout.
Yeah, well done, Jack. I've got to say, hopefully, lads, we'll get some winners in there because we've got enough selections to try and get a couple of winners. So fingers crossed for us. All that's left for me to say is please do remember to gamble responsibly. Responsible gambling is something that we hold in a huge amount of importance here at Racing TV. And if the fun has stopped, please do stop. That's it from us. Please do remember to like, subscribe, and actually comment as well with your best bet for Goodwood this week. We'd love to hear from you down below. It's a cracking 5 days of action in prospect. And we'll be back here on Flat Out once again to review all the action and indeed our selections a little bit later on. But for now, that's it from us here on Flat Out.